For 3 years, I didn't think about him beyond the route. Same address, same gate, same long driveway that curved just enough to hide the house until you were already committed to going all the way in. It wasn't the kind of place people lived in casually. It had that quiet scale to it, expensive, but not loud about it. The kind of wealth that didn't need to prove anything. He always answered the door himself. That was the first thing that stood out, though I didn't question it at the time. No staff, no delay. Just him, already there, as if he had been waiting specifically for the sound of my car. He didn't say much. Pizza, I'd say, holding out the box. He'd nod once, take it, then reach into his pocket. $2, always the same. Not rounded up, not adjusted. Just two. At first, I thought it was strange in the way small things are strange. Then it became expected, predictable enough that I stopped thinking about it. But there were moments, brief, easy to ignore, when it felt like there was something else happening. He would pause sometimes after handing me the money. Not long, just enough to feel like a gap where something could have been said. He'd look at me like he was trying to place something or remember it. Then the door would close. That was it. 3 years of that. Then one day, the order didn't come in. I didn't notice immediately. Routes change. People stop ordering. It happens. It wasn't until a week later that I realized the address hadn't shown up at all. I assumed he had moved, or maybe he just stopped ordering. Either way, it didn't feel like something I needed to follow up on. Then I got the call, not from the restaurant, from someone who introduced himself as a lawyer. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Wrong number, wrong person, but he knew my name, knew where I worked, knew the address I had been delivering to. "I'd like you to come in," he said. "Mr. Halverson left something for you." I almost didn't go. There wasn't a version of that sentence that made sense to me. I was a delivery driver. He was, whatever he was, there wasn't overlap. But curiosity has a way of pushing past logic. The office was exactly what you'd expect. Quiet, controlled, nothing unnecessary. The lawyer didn't waste time explaining anything up front. He didn't ask about my relationship with the man. He didn't seem interested in my confusion. He just handed me an envelope. "He asked that you receive this directly," he said. That was it. No build-up. I opened it there. Inside was a document first, clinical, precise, DNA test results. I didn't understand what I was looking at right away. Not because it was complicated, but because I wasn't expecting it to mean anything to me. Then I saw the names, his and mine. I read it twice. Still didn't feel real. The lawyer didn't interrupt. He just waited. "There's also this," he said after a moment. Sliding something else across the desk. A key, plain, metal, slightly worn, no label. "This corresponds to a property," he added. "The address is included." I looked back down at the paper. My mind didn't move quickly. It slowed instead, like it was trying to prevent itself from jumping to conclusions. "This is accurate?" I asked. "Yes," he said. No hesitation, no softening, just confirmation. I left the office without saying much else. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. I sat in my car for a long time before starting the engine. The address attached to the key wasn't the mansion. It was somewhere else, smaller, older, tucked into a part of the city I didn't recognize immediately. I drove there without deciding to. The building wasn't impressive. No gates, no long driveway, just a quiet structure that blended into everything around it. The key fit. Inside, the space was preserved, not abandoned, maintained. There was furniture, but not much of it. A table, a chair. The shelves along one wall, boxes labeled neatly. I stood there for a while before opening anything. Then I picked one at random. Inside were documents older than I expected. Photos, some of them I recognized without knowing why. Not specific memories. Just familiarity. A woman I didn't know, holding a child, another box, letters unsent, dates that stretched back further than 3 years, further than I had known him at all. I didn't read them all at once. I couldn't. It wasn't overwhelming in a dramatic way. It was disorienting. Like stepping into a version of a story you hadn't been told existed. There were references to me. Indirect at first, then clearer, observations, not from a distance, from proximity I didn't remember. That was the part that unsettled me. Not that he knew about me, but that he had known me longer than I had known him. The $2 tips came back to me then, not as an insult, not as indifference, as something deliberate, consistent, controlled, a choice. I sat down in the chair and stayed there longer than I meant to. There wasn't a moment where everything made sense. There wasn't a clear explanation waiting at the end of the boxes. Just pieces, enough to confirm the connection, not enough to explain it. The next time I saw the lawyer, he spoke more directly. "There are provisions," he said. "He structured part of his estate with you in mind. He didn't frame it as inheritance, more like inclusion, something acknowledged formally, even if it hadn't been spoken. There were other people involved, other names, other expectations. But my presence in that structure wasn't small. It wasn't accidental. That was the part that shifted everything. Not the money, not the property, the recognition. Late, incomplete, but real. I went back to the mansion once. The gate was closed. No one answered. It looked the same from the outside, like nothing had changed. But I knew now that something had been happening there all along, something I had been part of without understanding. 3 years of deliveries, 3 years of standing at that door, thinking I was just passing through. I don't know why he chose not to say anything, why everything was left in documents instead of words. That part doesn't resolve. Maybe it wasn't meant to. What I do know is that those moments weren't empty. They just weren't explained. And now, they don't feel small anymore. They feel intentional, even if I'm still figuring out what to do with that.